Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to Zibby's Bookshop. Thank you so much for being here. We're here to celebrate the launch of GLIMMER by Kimberly Shannon and her collaborator Genevieve. So it'll be about a 30-minute conversation followed by a Q&A and a book signing after where we buy lots of books. Lots of stuff, so enjoy.
I'm Genevieve Field, and I just want to do a quick intro and tell you, if you don't already know who Kimberly Shannon Murphy is, I'm going to tell you a little bit about her from her bio in the book, which is...
You do not need to read it, Genevieve.
I'm not going to read it, but I'm teasing. I'm definitely not going to read the whole thing because we'd be here for a while, but Kimberly Shannon Murphy is a leading Hollywood stuntwoman who has performed in more than 130 feature films and television shows, including Top Gun Maverick, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Captain America, Euphoria, Big Little Lies, The Mick, Hunger Games, and many more. I could go on and on, but I can't. And she has doubled numerous A-list actresses, including Cameron Diaz, who wrote the beautiful foreword to this book, Charlize Theron, Blake Lively, Angelina Jolie, Taylor Swift, and also many more. And this is Kimberly's first book, and it is her memoir. And I'm going to just let you take it away from there.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you guys all for coming. I appreciate it so much. This is my first time doing a live with people staring at me. So forgive me if I get emotional. But yes, this has been something that I've wanted to do my whole life, that I felt like, for those of you who have read my story, that I needed to put in the world. Oh God, this is happening so early. Just for something that I think we all have had our traumas in our life, and so many go unspoken. And this was something that felt so important for me to speak about, and having my career and having somewhat of a platform to do so, I felt like it was my job to speak about what had happened to me, to give others a voice and others some strength to speak about theirs. So I wrote this book for my 15-year-old self, because I know if I had this book at 15, my life would have been very different. So with that, I'm going to read an excerpt that my writer is making me read.
I just want to preface that with, I helped Kimberly select 2 readings. We're going to kind of break them up a little bit, but the first, I wanted you all to hear about her perspective as a young child, and then her perspective as an adult. So we're starting with the young child perspective, which is the tougher one, but such an important part of the book.
Okay, so this is a chapter, page 16, Christmas party, mid-'80s, when I was 8 years old. Christmas steals mom's energy too. She doesn't even have enough to wrap our presents. She just leaves them on the couch for us to open. Christmas morning, right cushion, Kimberly, left, Colette. Dad goes downstairs first so he can howl, "Girls, we've been robbed," which was actually very funny every year. Then we race each other to go down and have the good part of Christmas. I always get a new doll, and Colette gets books. There's no church because we do it on Christmas Eve. We have bacon and eggs and stay in our pajamas until it's time to get ready for the party. And that's the end of the good part. Grandma Jen and Grandpa have hosted the Christmas party since Mom was a kid. Every year, Earl Avenue turns into a Disney holiday, special house, its pointy eaves lined with colored lights, logs crackling in the fireplace, and tinsel dripping from everything in sight. To complete the picture, each time the doorbell rings, the guests in their red and green finery rush to the entryway and belt out a new round of "We Wish You a Merry Christmas." Grandpa sings Barbershop. My great aunt plays show tunes, and couples dance to the Lindy. Grandpa taught all his kids to ballroom dance, and they taught their husbands and wives so everyone can fit the part. Meanwhile, the grown-ups drink and drink until the party splits into 2 parties, theirs and ours. Only ours isn't really a party, it's more like killing time. My cousin Mike and I take turns sliding down the banister while we wait for them to wake up from their dream world and take us home. We whoosh down on our stomachs, tiptoe back up, and go again. We don't let our cousin Amanda go because she's the littlest and we're in charge. Keep a lookout for Grandma Jen, Mike orders to his little sister. Just sit at the bottom of the stairs, and if she comes, say hi, Grandma Jen, super loud so we can hear her. But I don't want to sit at the bottom, Amanda stomps, dangling her Christmas Barbie by the hair. Secretly, I don't blame her. I wouldn't want to sit down there either. The cuckoo clock hangs at the bottom of the stairs. It's the worst of all Grandpapa's clocks. They're everywhere. A grandfather in the middle landing and the little ones in wood and the metal frames ticking and chiming all over the house. Also, the blue bathroom is down there. The light is off and the door is cracked open. Mike caves and stations Amanda by the grandfather clock, where she'll never see Grandma Jen coming in time. We continue the game anyway, until her red talons reach up from below and snatch Mike off the railing. We're sent to the basement like I knew we would be. Sorry if this all takes me a second, everybody. At least Grandma Jen won't come down here. The basement is Grandpapa's space. It's always freezing cold. It has red tile floors, a wood shop, a shiny black piano that plays all by itself. If I can't finish Genevieve, I can finish. And a bar where he keeps his beer and cocktail stirs. Can you finish for me, please?
Yep, I sure can.
18, Mike.
Okay. Yep. Hold on 1 second. Okay. All right. Also, the blue bathroom is down there. The light is off and the door is cracked open. Mike caves and stations Amanda by the grandfather clock, where she'll never see Grandma Jen coming in time. We continue the game anyway until her red talons reach up from below and snatch Mike off the railing. We're sent to the basement like I knew we would be. At least Grandma Jen won't come down here. The basement is Grandpapa's space, always freezing cold. It has red tile floors, a wood shop, a shiny black piano that plays all by itself, and a bar where he keeps only beer and cocktail stirrers. Mike likes to play bartender, but I stay away from there. In the corner of the room is the work table with a pegboard on the wall that holds Grandpapa's tools. Each saw and hammer and screwdriver is outlined with a Sharpie, so it stays exactly in its place. Kimberly, there's glitter, says Amanda, crouching over the wood scrap box. We're foraging through the pieces, elbows knocking, sawdust flying, when the doorbell rings upstairs. The ceiling rumbles with footsteps and "We wish you a Merry Christmas" begins, and my cousins drop their wood and race upstairs to join the chorus. Run, follow them, screams my brain, but my feet don't move. They know I'm supposed to stay. I turn back to the table and get to work. I could never create down here. I just like the glue, sticking and unsticking and regluing and sticking and unsticking and regluing until I'm in a trance, when quietly the door opens. I don't have to look up to know who's come. Sometime, minutes, hours later, I slowly climb the basement stairs, a heavy presence following behind me. Past the blue bathroom, we enter the kitchen, Grandpapa and I. The room feels too bright, like I'm walking into the sunshine after a movie matinee. I put up my hand to shield my eyes, squinting. Some ladies washing dishes turn to stare. What do they see? I touch a swelling bump on my forehead, look down at my rumpled burgundy dress. My knees are bleeding through my ripped tights. They were brand new for the party. Mom skipped her November manicure to afford them. And now look what I've done. So I can understand why it was a tough one to read. I'm sorry I picked that one. But Christmas was such a devastating time for Kimberly every year because it's the time when the rest of the world is happy and celebrating and families are coming together, and her family outwardly was coming together at this magnificent, beautiful party in this beautiful house, and everybody looked beautiful and looked the part. And underneath it, there was this, hell that she was enduring, and that happened every year, every single year, until this awful person died. So I think that was why I wanted her, to read that part. But I think, we'll take a little break from the reading, and I just want to tell you a little bit about what my role is and why I'm sitting here. This is Kimberly's memoir. I'm, what's called a ghostwriter or a collaborator. For years, we were just kind of in the darkness as ghosts, and Kimberly is one of the few authors who sort of really generously allowed me to have my name on the cover and show that I had a big part in making this book happen, which is kind of a newer thing that's happening now. There's a little bit more of kind of outward collaborations happening. But that said, it is an incredibly collaborative process, and it's really interesting to be a collaborator because you're sort of living inside of this person's head. For us, it was about a 2-year process. I think.
Right.
3 years.
Yeah.
It's like we spent about 8 months writing the proposal.
Yeah.
Possibly longer.
Mm-hmm.
It's all a blur, but to even to get to the point where we had a book, we had a book to sell to the publisher. You don't write the book all in advance. In nonfiction, you write a proposal. So Kimberly called me sort of on the recommendation of, I think, someone we knew in common, a magazine editor who'd worked with both of us, and we had a conversation, and we were both a little bit new to the game. I was a little bit new. I'd done one memoir before that, but I was still fairly green on writing memoirs, and I told her that, and she just was incredibly trusting, and it was very much a kind of vibe that we had, and
Yes.
that you felt like, okay, I think I can trust this person to help me with this project. So then we spent about 8 months kind of never meeting in person, but just getting to know each other on Zooms and talking, and we wrote a really kick-ass proposal, I must say, that helped us to sell a memoir, which is a really tough market.
But I think it sold in 6 days.
Yeah, it sold in auction. All the major publishers were in the auction, and it was, a very super exciting moment when we sold it to HarperCollins. And then after that, we met for the first time in person. We went to Monterey.
We did.
And we spent 4 days together.
Yes.
In a really intensive process. And
yeah. And we worked 10 hours a day, just literally sat in a hotel room and ordered breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and just talked and wine. There was wine involved. When we had to do conference calls with my family members, there was definitely wine involved.
Yeah.
And for me, it was more of just, I sort of believe in manifestation in the universe and all of those things. And when we met on Zoom, I remember getting off of our call, and I said to my husband, okay, I hired her. And he's like, wait, what? You can't just hire someone. You have to. And I said, no, she's the one. She's going to do it. And, for those of you who have read my book, she is the most incredible writer. And my biggest thing with writing my story was that I wrote this for survivors. And so I didn't want it to be triggering for people. I didn't want people to, start reading it and be like, oh my God, I have to put this down because it's just too much and it's bringing up my own stuff. I wanted it to be a story that, and people have a hard time with me like, I loved your book. I don't mean I loved it, but I didn't, and for me, it's a huge compliment because that's exactly what I was trying to do, was write a book that was inspiring, that people didn't want to put down, even though it's a painful and difficult story. And Genevieve did such a beautiful job of articulating a really incredibly difficult subject in such a beautiful way. And for that, I'll be forever grateful. And, I feel the most proud of, no matter what happens with this book, I'm so proud of the way we told the story. And I know for generations, my child and my child's children and all of that will be able to pick this up and understand what our family was and why things were the way they were in such a beautiful way. And I owe that to her 100%.
Wow, thank you, Kimberly. I was also going to say that as a collaborator, ghostwriter, it's never the same process with two different people. It's every person has a completely different way of working. And what I was just kind of blown away by with Kimberly was when we met in Monterey and we started talking, is that she had such a sense of her life story that you were finally ready to write it, because she had tried many times over the years to write this book and worked with some really great editors and had some really great sample chapters, but you hadn't done the intense processing that you had done by the time you met me. So by the time you met me, you had such a strong sense of what the pivotal moments in your life were, and you were able to tell me like what you wanted to be the main scene in each chapter, and we sat down together and we kind of outlined the entire book in these 4 days. And that is something that usually falls completely on the writer. The author kind of gives you all this, massive material, and you're left to kind of sift through it. But Kimberly has this incredibly organized way of thinking. You're so sharp with your ability to see, as a first-time author, also the arc of the book, and I think because we were able to do that together, that the book kind of reads like a little. It has the arc of a movie. It's very cinematic, and also that was another thing that I wanted to do, is to kind of capture the propulsiveness of her life and the way that stunt work helped her heal, and through the kind of language of the body and physicality. So I think that, I just felt really lucky to, kind of stumble upon a person who had their shit together so much.
Well, I'm glad that I made you think that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Should we read the second?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to read the second?
I can try.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't say that in the beginning, but I'm doing my best to read. This one's easier, right, Genevieve?
I think so.
She's like, here, read the hardest parts of the book.
I know.
Go.
This part is a little bit later when Kimberly is an adult and living in Los Angeles and is just getting off the ground in her stunt career.
Okay, great. Let's see if it's doable. Okay.
What page does it start on?
It's 187. Okay, so this is 2010. And I'm 10 years old. No, I'm kidding. I can't fail. I can't leave. It feels right to be here. Not the falling in love part, which is uncomfortable, as it is exciting, like wearing a fabulous Oscar gown cut for someone else's body. And not because I particularly like LA. I don't sync with the slow motion California energy. Sorry. And my whiny Long Island accent. Don't say anything, Zach. I see you. Now I've lost my place. Okay. Every time I open my mouth. The reason I'll never use my escape hatch back to New York is that LA is clearly my next career step, and I'd rather die than stand still, which I think we all feel in many times. Besides not fitting in is my natural state. Within days of packing up my Williamsburg apartment and filing for divorce, I booked my first Hollywood job, doubling the actor Yvonne Strahovski on an episode of the TV show Chuck. My excitement turns into anxiety, though, when I find out that I'll be fighting Zoe Bell, only the greatest stunt woman alive. I'm going to get annihilated, and I slightly did. We're supposed to be rival models at a fashion show, out for each other's blood, but Zoe, costumed like me in a tiny dress and towering stilettos, greets me like an old friend. Hi there, love, she says in her pretty Kiwi accent. Ready to rehearse? All my eye contact progress goes right out the window. It's an honor to meet you, I tell Zoe, shoes closing to close to bowing. You were so amazing in Kill Bill. Aw, thanks, she says, waving away the compliment. Busted my ribs on that one, but well worth it. If it weren't for that movie, I'd be back in New Zealand 3 months after I left. Haven't you doubled for Uma too? I nod, feeling 10% less nervous. Zoe was once an outsider too. My super ex-girlfriend was my first job ever, I say. Not bad then, says Zoe. Let's see what you've got. And don't be afraid to hurt me, yeah? No risk of that. I know next to nothing about fighting, but Zoe is appalled. If Zoe is appalled, she doesn't show it. As all of you know, Zoe is. After an afternoon of throwing me around the catwalk, she walks me to my trailer and teaches me how to do a proper side kick against the wall. Practice that over and over and you'll be right set. I nod, trying to match her optimism. Thank you. You've been so nice. I just have, my voice catches so much to learn. Hey, says Zoe, I'm still learning too. She runs a hand through her daisy blonde hair, thinking for a minute. Just know yourself, Kim. Know your worth and know where you're going. I have no worries about you. And that makes one of us. As I drive home, committing Zoe's wisdom to a memory, know yourself, know your worth, know where you're going, a surreal thought pops into my head. What if Hollywood isn't so cutthroat after all? What if it's full of kind, good-hearted people that can help me bloom? I don't realize it yet, but simply considering that possibility, I'm allowing it to happen. Zoe, for one, will become a fast friend and a frequent on-screen collaborator. 8 years in the future, as a stunt coordinator for Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, she'll hire me to be a part of the final assemble fight sequence with Brad Pitt and a scene-stealing pit bull. In that one, I'm the redheaded Manson girl who tackles Brad on a table before he smashes my head into various things. It was actually Zach that did that. A telephone, a framed Western movie poster, a wall, etc. Until I'm good and dead. Though seemingly brutal and chaotic, the scene will be as tightly choreographed as a ballet. We'll spend months preparing for it. The breakaway phone tested, the lunges, punches, slashes, and smashes rehearsed until we could do them in our sleep, and some nights dreaming I do. Zoe's artfulness, her team's attention to detail and safety will make me start to rethink my relationship with my craft and also my old friend of pain. At last, I'll approach stunt work as a professional, not someone looking to get hurt.
Yeah, that's such a key part of the book, is the role that stunt work plays in your healing.
Yes.
It's a really interesting, just to back up just for a second, like the process of healing that I discovered in working with Kimberly is ongoing and it never stops.
Mm-hmm.
It's not ever just one day you wake up and you feel like, okay, I've done the 10 years of therapy, I've revisited the memories, I've done all this, now it's done and I can just move forward. It's sort of like a constant effort to keep it going. And so you did that. And this book is a lot about her physicality and how she kept sane as a child before she even knew what had happened to her. Because a lot of this book is also about memory and how it feels to have survived abuse, but not know that you did because you don't remember what happened to you. So Kimberly had her memories at 15 and they first started coming out. But even before that, she was this athlete and this dancer and gymnast and just this incredibly, physical person. And then the book kind of takes you through like, okay, well, you start using your physicality in kind of a dangerous way for your body. Do you want to talk about how the role of like stunts, kind of how your stunt work was maybe not so good for you at first? Or would you say that like when you were like looking to get hurt or you wanted to get cut up on a
I think there's just a correlation between trauma and like high intensity sports in general. Mm-hmm. I personally feel that way. I don't think that there's anyone who, I don't want to say, I know there's a lot of stunt people in the room, but there's like, I feel like there's something about us being okay with waking up in the morning and like, I'm going to do a car hit. And this is like, great. I feel like there's something amiss there. And at least for me, there was, and being able to connect the two and what that was for me was a really important part, an essential part of my healing for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because the book sort of opens with a passage where
stop it. You come here and give me a hug. You get out of here. This is Dr. Romani. For those of you who don't like, you're kidding me. You're going to make me cry so hard. Oh my God. I love you so much. Oh my God. You're amazing. Seriously. Okay.
Yeah, we're just saying that the healing is ongoing. It never stops. And a really exciting thing about working with you on this book was that, we sort of started off writing this. We thought that we knew what the whole story was. And then as we kind of
Yes.
came to the end of the writing, you had this whole other kind of
Epiphany.
You met Dr. Gabor Mate, who's been a big proponent of this book and of your work, and he introduced you to psychedelic therapy.
Yes.
And so at the end of the book, when we sort of thought we had an ending, we didn't.
Yes.
And you discovered this incredible modality, I guess what you would call it, for kind of revisiting memories in a way that felt like you were able to heal and process rather than being traumatized by them.
Yes.
And is that something that you hope people will take away from the book?
For me, and we'll open for questions, but a huge part of my healing was the psychedelic medicine, because I felt like it really rewired my brain in many ways, and I didn't realize it until I would say the last few months. And I did my first journey maybe 2 years ago now was my first one. But it really helped, and I'm not a doctor, but I can look at things in a way that I couldn't before, because my trauma was blocking those ways. So I had this protective, the only way I can explain it, this protective way in my brain that I was protecting certain people in my family, like making excuses for my mom and my dad for, well, they didn't know and it was okay, and all of these things, which was really inhibiting me from really healing, because I wasn't looking at the whole picture. I was focusing on my abuser, which of course, and what he did and what had happened to me, but I wasn't giving everyone accountability for what had happened, which was not allowing me to heal in the way that I needed to. And doing psychedelics for me really sort of rewired those pathways in my brain, and sort of, I almost feel like brought me back to like my elementary brain. And I think when you have such early trauma where it's so complex and so deep, you don't know what's right and wrong, because you're just being introduced to things in such a massive, horrific way. And so to make sense of that is impossible. And for me, psychedelics helped me sort of like restart that almost, and sort of really step back and say, okay, and really start just taking care of my inner child and making her feel safe. And with that, it brought my healing to a whole other level, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And there's so many different phases of healing in this book. There's, there's endless searches for a therapist who doesn't fall asleep on you in the middle of the session. Just people who just should not be in the business of trying to give therapy to others. And then you finally did connect them. There's a lot of, I think, really good advice through your therapist, Andrea, in this book.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really super proud of this work that we did together, and all the people that I hope it will reach. And
Yes.
And we thought if anybody, would like to ask questions about, the process of writing the book, or, anything about what it was like to help Kimberly with this process, I'm happy to answer those questions, and I'm sure you have lots of questions for Kimberly as well. So if anyone has anything they want to know about, we're here. Let us know.
Just raise your hand.
Can I ask a question about the book that I hope it doesn't spoil anything for anybody? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Was there any backlash to what you did to his tombstone?
No, I kind of wish I got arrested, honestly. Would have made for like a better chapter. But no, there wasn't. No one ever said, but that was very normal in my family. I don't think it wasn't known that I did it, because there were people that were still visiting him and giving him flowers, because when I got there were flowers there. There is a lot that I left out in the book. My grandmother, his wife, her sister, and him were having an affair. So, it's just like, anyway, she was the one who would leave flowers for him. So I know that they knew, or people knew that I did what I did. But no one ever said anything, which is normal.
Yes, I'm Lori. Thank you so much, Kimberly and Genevieve. Kimberly, as somebody who went through what you went through and has found a way to sort of construct like a sort of wall around you your whole life, what's it been like for you to now have your story out in the world and have people maybe feel a little bit like they know you, or have fellow survivors, feel like they can just talk to you? What's that been like for you as somebody who is used to like keeping it to yourself?
I never really kept it to myself. I was always very open about my story, but it's definitely a different level, especially now with social media and how everything is sort of out in the world. And in the beginning, when the book came out, I was very diligent about kind of answering everybody's direct messages and really trying to just be there for everybody. And then it became like too much for me. So I think now I've sort of shifted in the sense of, the book is sort of my gift to survivors, and, Instagram is like my main social media, and I try to post and do as much as I can and answer through comments that way. But I don't, it's a lot because, it's really amazing how many messages I've gotten, like hundreds upon hundreds of just people that just literally say, I feel seen for the first time in my life, and I'm 75 years old, which is so insane to me. And I did a conference where I spoke with Gabor, and I only spoke for about 10 minutes, and then we went to lunch, and I went to leave, and I was like, oh, excuse me. And there was just a line, and I was like, oh, they're waiting for me, like out the door, and, and just these women just hugging me, and, oh my gosh, I told my family for the first time that it was my uncle or my brother. And it's just so astonishing how much this happens and how much it happens within families. And my hope is to just bring more awareness to that, even if it's just for the mothers of kids that, may not really want to sort of acknowledge that uncle or that, grandfather or whoever that is. That might be just a little creepy, that I don't really feel great about, but, it's Christmas and we're all just going to get together. If I could bring any message out, it's that your gut as a parent is real. And if there's any part of it that says this person isn't safe, your child should not be around them. And you can unpack that later in therapy or wherever, but it's a real feeling and you should follow it, because if somebody followed that with me, I wouldn't be sitting here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have one.
Okay. Oh, hi, Jim.
Hi, Kimberly.
Hi.
Apologize to everyone for coming in late. But, super proud of you.
Thank you.
This is incredible. I think one question is like with the psychedelics at work,
Yeah.
the hesitancy about it. I don't know about many of you, I'm sure there's a few, but some of our younger years and experimenting with various things, and you're like, whoa, but and then after getting away from that, but coming back and learning about the psychedelic treatments that are going on, people may be like, wow, I don't want to have a bad trip. I don't want to, how do you find the right sources to do? But what hesitancy did you have any hesitancy at all? Like, don't, with the people you're with, like, hey, make sure I don't freak out here.
Oh, yeah. When Gabor first brought it up to me, I said, oh, absolutely not. That's not something I'm going to do at all.
Yeah.
And my first instinct was like, what if I get naked and like jump in the pool? Like literally that's what I was thinking in my head. Like, because I had, in the book I talk about my experience with drugs in my 20s. But he connected me with an amazing doctor, and everything is, they get it from, it's all pure. Like what you get off the street is not the same, and I'm not here to say what drugs are, but for me personally, it was a very beautiful experience. It was nothing like I anticipated it was. I did 2 months of therapy with this woman before we even did a journey, and we eased into it, and it was very like small in the beginning. And I will say that we do like an integration period where you sort of kind of put out there what you want to get from the journey. And it's so interesting because when you're in it, it all kind of comes full circle and you're kind of there. And then afterwards you work with the doctor as well. And it is definitely where I feel like and for those who have experienced it will understand, but for those who haven't, I feel like when I talk about it, it just feels like I'm like this crazy, like drug person. But my first journey was like, as soon as the medicine kicked in, it was like, there was my little girl in front of me.
Yeah.
And she was like in the clothes she was abused in,
Yeah.
and like bleeding and smiling at me.
Yeah.
And she just said to me, "What took you so long, Kim?"
Yeah. Wow.
And it was like that, it changed my life.
That's incredible. Because I understand I've been following a lot of veterans that
Yes.
use it as well.
Mhm.
So, yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's important.
It's different ways to use it. And I definitely think like going to a rave is different than
A different set of therapy.
It's different, yeah. Yes.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Emily.
Hi, Emily.
I know doing a project like this can be really emotional and difficult, and I guess I have a question for you. Was it hard for you, Genevieve, to go through this with her? And for you, was it healing for you to complete this? Was it a big part of your healing to finish this book?
Yeah, it was intense. Because when you're doing this, they usually give you, from the time that you get the book deal, they give you about a year to write the whole thing. So it's just a year. I mean, we'd already had a year or two before that, kind of building up to writing the book. But when we really kicked in, it was just like I started dreaming about Kimberly. I'm like dreaming. I'm like kind of like living in her brain in a weird, she's living in my skin, or I don't know, it's like weird. It's like she my muse or I'm her muse, and it's very, you become very kind of enmeshed, and so it's an interesting dynamic. But I think for me, just as a writer, like my main stress was just to get it right, to do it justice, and that kind of overrode whatever kind of the difficulty of the subject matter. For me, it was just like, okay, well, how do I, the kind of technical part of it, like how do I convey it? And I got really hung up on the question of memory in this book, and how to tell her story in the first quarter of the book when she doesn't know what's happening to her, and how to like let the reader know because she doesn't know. And so that kind of thing just consumed me more. So I was completely neurotic and hard to live with, but it wasn't because I was writing about abuse as much as that I was writing about something really hard to make it right. But it was really gratifying to do it.
And yes, for me, it was really, the whole process has been so healing. And this amazing woman who just walked in, Dr. Romani, who was one of the first women that interviewed me. For those of you who don't know her, she's a brilliant human, and written so many books of her own. And I just adore you beyond. And I'm saying that because working with Genevieve and her being my first interview, when you're talking to strangers at the time who are hearing your story for the first time, who don't know your family, right? Because your friends know your family and they, kind of have that relationship. Getting people's perspective and just facial expressions about what has happened to you is extremely healing, because it makes you realize how severe, for me, my trauma was. Where, Genevieve sometimes would just be like, wait, what? Like that actually, and where I found I was making excuses for my family, like I was saying before, for so long, it gave me a pathway and it gave me permission, especially when I did my interview with Dr. Romani. It gave me permission to feel my trauma fully, which I haven't been able to do my entire life. Which it was incredible. I didn't realize how incredibly painful that was until I did this. So yes, it was, I feel like, the final chapter of my healing. Of course, it's going to go on for the rest of my life, as I learned, unfortunately, but it's been a really big component and a necessary tool for me to be able to move through it. Next week is my birthday, and I'm celebrating my first birthday because it's my first birthday without speaking to anyone in my family. And for me, that is a gift to my inner child and to myself. Yeah.
How has fully feeling your trauma impacted or changed the relationship with yourself and also the relationship with people that are close to you?
My relationship with myself has become so much better because for so long I saw myself as two people. I saw my child self and I saw my adult self, and we were two separate people. And I felt a lot of anger from my child self, like that it was almost her fault that all this happened. I needed someone to blame, and for a long time I blamed her, unfortunately. And doing this, it really allowed me to see that she went through all of the pain and she survived it. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. And as far as I have like the best husband in the world, and I'm not really sure how that happened. And most people who know me, who are my stunt friends, are like, you know, when I first, I'm married to Casey O'Neill, they're like, Casey, you're married to Casey O'Neill? He's the nicest guy. I'm like, yeah, I know. Okay, what are you trying to say here? Yeah. But he is the most supportive, loving, yeah, he's given me life. Yeah.
You deserve it.
Thank you. And I didn't believe that, but he showed me that I did. So.
Hi, Kimberly.
Hi.
I just want to say I really admire your bravery and your courage in
Thank
writing
you.
this book. I'm looking forward to reading it. And a question I have for both you and Genevieve is, how did you get through writing the more difficult parts of your book while taking care of yourself and your mental health?
Some days it was really hard, like really hard. And sometimes I feel like I even, you know, would say that to you. I feel like we had a really, like Genevieve, I would say like she goes dark, where she's like, don't call me for 2 months. And I'd be like, but I want to read things. And so I like have a control thing, but she'd be like, no, I'm going in the basement. And I'm like, that's what it felt like for me anyway. And then she would come out and I'd read this chapter. I'd be like, oh my God, this woman's incredible. But you know, it was really hard. It was really hard. It was really hard. That's why I am so proud of it, because I do truly believe like there's no book out there like this. You know, talking about incest is something that most people don't do and certainly don't write about. And because of her, it was done in such a beautiful way that I do feel like it's going to help people for generations. So yeah, it was a real bitch.
So, since the book came out this year and you've made the decision to not be in contact with your family anymore, do you feel like the book kind of needed to come out in order to make that decision, or how did that come out?
My family started as soon as I got the book deal. Some people in the book we write that I have one sister. I have 3 sisters. And when I got my book deal, one of my sisters stopped talking to me. Another one was close behind her. And it's sort of just, I think it was sort of like looked at, oh, how cute, Kim's gonna write a book kind of thing. And then it was like, oh no, Kim's like gonna write a book, and you know, HarperCollins bought it and it's a big deal, and Cameron's gonna write the foreword. And I think once I started interviewing and it became more of a scale of people really hearing me speak, it became very terrifying for them. And with that said, I'm not angry, or I don't fault anybody for doing what they need to do to survive. And I truly believe that that's what everybody in my family is doing. I do believe that. And that's I think, the most painful part for me, because it's kind of like I'm standing over here going, like, we can heal, like, we can do this thing. But for them, this is not their path, and this isn't the way they want to do it, or that they feel that they can do it. And this is the way that I'm doing it. And so we're just, right now, it's just not meeting. We're not meeting in the same space, which is really sad and hard. And there's a lot of grief around that. But I also believe that we're all on our own journey in this life. And, you know, my biggest thing is that all of this pain didn't happen to me for no reason. Like, if I don't do something positive with this, then all of it was for nothing. And I won't live like that.
So beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
So in writing this book and going through the process of healing, you're a mom, right? So you're a mom through this whole thing. How has this whole process changed you as a mom? Like, knowing, I think about it, right, as a mom, and I think I can't even imagine the fear, right? As a parent, you're always worried about your kids. How has this whole thing changed you as a mom, and kind of your outlook on how you want, not just from not necessarily just safety, but just overall, right? Letting your child fly, but also having that trauma.
It's been really difficult because I am learning how to be a mother, because I never had one. And I never had any women in my life that, besides my Aunt Pat, who even sort of showed me how to be motherly. So as Lucy always sorry Lucy, put it to me, is it okay if I say, she said to me after she read the book, you're the motherless mother. Yeah. And when she said that to me, it not changed, but it was such a beautiful thing for me to really think about, because it made me realize how I was being a mother to Capri, even though I never had one. And in that, I'm learning as I go, as we all are as moms. Like, you know, we can have the best mom, but still we have kids and we're like, oh God, what do you do? And I think the biggest struggle for me with her, or the biggest thing I'm learning, is just how to be honest. And when she asks me those really hard questions, how to be honest in an appropriate way, because everything in my life was so inappropriate. So when she asks me questions, I'm like, okay, just give mommy a second and let me try to figure out the appropriate way, and maybe I need to Google something and then I'm gonna get back to you. But but when I see her in the world and I see the way she handles situations and who she is, I know that I'm doing all the right things, and I'm super proud of her, and I'm super proud of me. Sorry.
Right, I think we have to probably wrap it up and do any book
Yeah,
signing
yeah.
that we need to do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you all for coming. So we'll have books up front to purchase, and then we're gonna set Kimberly right over here for any signing.
Stay down there.
Appreciate it.